Big U had Nipsey Hussle killed. Everybody know that.
I thought Big U gave wrong information. 30 minutes later, the homies blowing me up like they just killed Nipsey.
It's been pure chaos ever since the heartbreaking Halloween night killing of Big U's son, Jabari Henley. And now the streets are shaking again because things just took an even wilder turn. Nipsey's own affiliates convinced Big U had something to do with their homie's death, just leaked explosive footage of Big U. As final moments with his son, and the city is losing its mind over what S in it. This leaked clip didn't just hit the internet. It ripped open an old wound that never healed. In the world of LA street politics, where your reputation can make you or break you, one piece of forgotten footage is enough to bring an entire war right back to life. In late October 2025, a grainy Instagram live started flying through every hood timeline. The clip showed three real ones chilling on a Crenshaw corner, vibing like back when everything felt steady. It was Big U, Nipsey Hussle, and Big U's youngin', Jabari, posted up, smiling, talking, looking like they were locked in on a mission bigger than any street line. What should have been a touching reminder of better days ended up turning into the spark that set the whole block off again.
Man, we just have some super sad news coming out of Los Angeles. It was just reported yesterday that Big U's son, baby Huey, unfortunately lost his life in the streets of Los Angeles on the night of Halloween.
Old pain, old politics, old rivalries, everything came rushing back with one upload. This wasn't staged or polished. It was raw, honest, and straight from the trenches. The video barely lasted a minute, but every second felt heavy. Big U's voice could be heard guiding the moment, showing pride as both an OG and a father, watching his son stand right there next to legends. It was the kind of real-life moment the streets rarely see captured on camera, the type of moment showing how things looked before success. Before courtrooms, before funerals changed everything. To understand why such a simple clip could ignite so much anger, you got to understand who these three were and what they were trying to build before everything went in the wrong direction.
My nephew, TD, I was looking for artists. TD told me to go get Nip. I went and seek Nip out of all the people I already been interviewing and talking to. And he was the sign of life. He was the diamond in a pile of whatever.
These weren't random dudes on a corner. This was a lineup of influence, ambition, and a whole blueprint for South LA's future. Nipsey Hussle, born Ermias Joseph Asgidam on August 15, 1985, was never just a Grammy-nominated rapper. He was a visionary who saw beyond the corners he came from. He believed his people could break cycles that had been hurting families for generations, and he moved like a man who knew his purpose from day one. Growing up in the Rawlins 60s neighborhood with an Eritrean father and an African-American mother, Nipsey had a unique perspective that shaped the way he thought, worked, and hustled. By 2018, Victory Lap didn't just chart, it made a statement. Moving 53,000 units and putting Nipsey's name in rooms, he built his way into brick by brick.
Big U had Nipsey Hussle killed. Everybody know that. Everybody know Big U, Nip called that hit. They was really jealous of Nipsey Hussle, homie. All the big homies in the set was jealous of Nip, because all the young love Nip. So Nip had got bigger than the set, cuz. Ain't nobody bigger than the set.
And I'm on a...
But Nipsey's real legacy wasn't measured in numbers. It was built on ownership, empowerment, and giving youth a vision beyond the streets. His Marathon clothing store, his Vector 90 STEM center, the $4.5 million block he bought to keep wealth in the community instead of letting outsiders take over. That was the real impact. Then you had Eugene Big U Henley, a man who walked a different path but carried the same weight in the city. Born around 1967, Big U survived some of the hardest environments LA had ever seen. After catching a serious case in '96, he came home in 2004 and started presenting himself as someone trying to redirect the energy of the streets. He created the Community Intervention Alliance in 2005, stepping into a public role as a mediator between rival sets that had been clashing for decades.
On phone, he FaceTimed me. So he FaceTimed me and stuff like that. He was like, Nipsey just got killed. I'm like, sick, so I didn't hear that. So I hang up with him. I called Nipsey, and I'm like, Nipsey, what's up? He was like, oh, what's up with it?
Nipsey answered.
Nipsey answered. But after I talked to Nipsey, and I was like, yeah, I love you, cuz, or whatever like that. I'll see you later, or whatever. So I hung up the phone. I thought Big U gave wrong information. 30 minutes later, The homies blowing me up like they just killed Nipsey.
By 2009, when Nipsey was still building from the ground up, he signed a 10-year management deal with Big U's Unique Music, shifting the direction of West Coast hip-hop behind the scenes. Big U introduced Nipsey to the all-money and mindset full ownership. No middlemen, no major label pulling strings. That philosophy became the backbone of Nipsey's entire movement, a movement that inspired thousands long after his passing. And there was Jabari, baby, Wee Henley, Big U's son. A man who found himself born into a world full of heavy expectations and dangerous dynamics. Born on March 15, 1991, Jabari wasn't chasing fame or living like some street legend. He was trying to carve his own space, standing between his father's influence and the unpredictable world around him. He wasn't a star athlete like his brother Dion Henley, who was shining as a linebacker for the LA Chargers. He wasn't a chart-topping artist or a public figure. He was simply navigating life in a world that didn't give many second chances, trying to stay balanced in a family tied to both growth and conflict. The problem is, in LA, your father's name alone can put pressure on your shoulders. And Jabari felt the weight of that every time he stepped outside.
But also, something else that didn't make sense to me, the hit didn't make sense to me, because who takes this girl on a hit? And who goes, if you're going to go do a hit, if it is a hit, if you're going to go do a hit, who goes to confront the guy? He already know, I'm finna do this dude. Who goes to confront the guy, leave, and then come back?
That's what makes this leaked clip so emotional, because it captured a rare moment where all three men looked united, hopeful, and connected before the streets tore everything apart. Now that this old footage is resurfacing, the streets are erupting again. Nipsey's affiliates see it as a sign, a reminder, a message, and they're pointing fingers right back at Big U at the worst possible time. This wasn't just a video drop, it was a declaration that the past isn't dead. And for a city still grieving Nipsey, and now grieving Jabari, this clip is turning hurt into confusion, confusion into anger, and anger into a storm nobody knows how to stop. Jabari was out in Compton working steady as a warehouse supervisor, clocking hours and minding his business while dropping music here and there under the name. Maybe we trying to keep life calm instead of getting sucked into the same spotlight that swallowed his father and tragically took Nipsey's life. People who knew him always said the same thing: he stayed out the way, kept things peaceful, and avoided gang involvement, even though his bloodline tied him straight into it. He was raising a 10-year-old daughter, trying to build something stable for her and break the same generational cycles that had crushed so many families before his. But the moment that old footage resurfaced, it landed right in the middle of one of the most explosive seasons LA street politics had seen in years.
And believe me, like I say, this case was investigated by the highest level of the branch. That man got a letter from the president.
Well, I know for a fact, if
Tensions were already out of control, and the city felt like a match waiting for a spark. By March 2025, Big U had already been indicted on crushing federal RICO charges, 43 counts, painting him as the mastermind behind a mafia-style organization inside the Rollins 60s Crips. Prosecutors weren't playing games. They laid out accusations of murder for hire connected to the 2021 killing of rapper Rayshawn Rocky Williams over a diss track, plus extortion from dozens of dispensaries disguised as protection fees, funneled through his nonprofit. They even accused him of human trafficking tied to labor at his music label and bank fraud involving $1.2 million in COVID-19 relief loans, making the entire situation look wild. Big U was being held without bail inside Metropolitan Detention Center downtown, facing the kind of case that could bury a man for life.
they could get you, they'd get you.
And they
If they thought for a second that you had something to do with it and they could prove it, you out of here.
To make things even worse, his attorney withdrew from the case in September 2025, leaving him to represent himself against the full power of the federal government, an uphill battle that had everyone watching closely. But the RICO case wasn't even the part that had his reputation hanging by a thread. Ever since Nipsey's murder on March 31st, 2019, conspiracy theories about Big U's involvement refused to die, no matter how many times they got debunked. Eric Holder Jr. had been convicted in February 2022 and sentenced to 60 years to life, with the trial clearly proving it was personal beef and tension over accusations, not some hidden plot created by Big U. Ow. But when people love a dramatic story, facts don't always matter. In certain corners of the internet and the streets, The idea that Big U betrayed Nipsey became a story people clung to. Loose Cannon, another Rollin 60s affiliate and music executive, added gasoline to the fire in 2024 when he claimed Big U called him 30 minutes before Nipsey. S-Murder saying something about handling the nuisance noise. He admitted he brushed it off at the time, but later claimed he believed it was a threat, something dark being set in motion by Big U. None of it was ever backed by phone records, never mentioned in trial, never proven with evidence. But that didn't matter to folks who already believed Big U was behind the scenes pulling strings. And then came the clip that hurt him even more, footage showing Big U reacting when someone said justice for Nip during an Instagram live with his homies. Someone in the background said it, and Big U let out a laugh, small sound that turned into a major weapon used against him for years. That laugh, whether nervous, awkward, or completely misunderstood, became the go-to proof for his detractors. To them, it showed disrespect toward a man he always claimed he loved like family. And the more Big U denied any involvement, the more people decided that denial was a sign of guilt. The streets love a villain, and Big U became that villain in certain circles. Whack 100, Nipsey's former manager, stepped in too and became one of Big U's loudest critics. In a February 2024 No Jumper interview, he accused Big U of giving federal investigators information during a 2018 RICO probe information. He claimed indirectly put Nipsey at risk of being labeled a snitch. Coming from someone who had been close to Nipsey, that accusation shook the culture. Charleston White jumped into the mix with even more outrageous claims, talking about alleged fights between Big U and Nipsey's family over money and control. He hinted that the situation was about power moves, not street politics or old tension. Every new theory made the story twist in a new direction, and people grabbed whatever version fit the narrative they wanted to believe. So when that old Instagram live footage featuring Big U, Nipsey, and Jabari popped back up in October 2025, it wasn't just another post-it. Was a bomb dropped right in the middle of the city's most unstable moment. The hood felt every second of that clip because it touched wound after wound: loyalty, betrayal, legacy, fatherhood, brotherhood, and the unstoppable spread of rumors. But nobody, absolutely nobody, predicted what would happen next. Within 72 hours of that footage resurfacing, one of the three men in that clip would be lying in the morgue, and the internet would break into celebration masked as street justice, fueling a whole new wave of chaos. Halloween night didn't just turn scary, it turned horrifying. The hit arrived like the city had been waiting for it, and the fallout was immediate. The hit went down at around 11:11 p.m. on October 31st, 2025, right there at South Figueroa.
Oh.
Street in West 69th Street, deep in South Los Angeles, where the sidewalks stay awake even when the city pretends it's sleeping. That stretch of Vermont and the surrounding blocks have seen decades of pain, struggle, and survival, and Halloween night was no different. Jabari had pulled up to a small neighborhood smoke shop people called the Fig and 69 Smoke Spot, the type of little corner store you find in every hood in America, selling Swisher Sweets, cheap energy drinks, and lottery tickets to folks grinding day after day. This spot sat in historic Rollin 60s Crips territory, but LAPD, Wasgang Impact Unit, made it clear the shop wasn't tied to any gang. It was just a business trying to stay alive in a place where survival don't come easy. Eyewitnesses that night, including two civilians who had just stepped out of the store and a food truck vendor serving late-night eats, painted the same chilling picture. They all described a black or dark-colored sedan rolling up slow and controlled, like the people inside weren't there by accident but moving with purpose. Something like a late-model Toyota Camry or Honda Accord, they said, cruising right up to the curb like it was planned. Jabari walked up from the sidewalk and talked through the passenger window for maybe 10 to 15 seconds. Just a quick exchange, nothing loud, nothing wild. The kind of small moment that happens all over LA every single day without anyone thinking twice. But out of nowhere, the whole thing flipped into pure chaos. At least 7 shots tore through the night, echoing against buildings and smashing any sense of peace left in the air. Shell casings later suggested a 9mm or a .40 caliber semi-auto was used. The kind of weapon that spits rounds fast and leaves no room for mistakes. Jabari took 4 of them with brutal precision. 1 in the arm, 1 in the arm. 1 in the thigh, dropping him near the entrance of the shop as blood pooled beneath him. The sedan peeled off instantly, heading northbound, then swerving right onto 68th Street before disappearing into South LA's maze of corners and alleyways. Nobody caught a plate, nobody caught a face, and nobody had time to react. By the time first responders from LA Fire Station 46 arrived at 11:14 p.m., they found Jabari down, unresponsive, fighting for breath with those slow, fading gasps the body makes when it's losing too much blood too fast. Paramedics jumped straight into CPR right there on the blood-covered pavement, pushing 2 doses of epinephrine, working his chest, trying everything they had to pull him back from the edge. But the trauma was too much, the bleeding too heavy, the wounds too deadly. At 11:28 p.m., with no pulse and no response, the paramedics made that call no first responder ever wants to make. Jabari baby wee Henley was gone. His body stayed at the scene for homicide detectives and the coroner, while his spirit joined the long list of young black men taken far too early on streets they never truly escaped. The LA County Medical Examiner's autopsy later confirmed he died from multiple gunshot wounds, including a laceration to the left pulmonary artery that caused him to bleed out fast. Toxicology came back clean, no alcohol, no controlled substances, so this wasn't about being impaired, slipping, or making bad choices. This was about something far deeper. This was about being born with a last name that put a target on your back in a city where bloodlines can turn into death sentences. His death was ruled a homicide, and the shooter stayed at large while miles away. Locked in the Metropolitan Detention Center, Big U is asleep with no idea his entire world was about to shatter. The news reached him at around 1:30 a.m. on November 1st through his cellmate and co-defendant Loose Cannon, who had received a contraband call from a family contact. This was news no father should ever hear, let alone hear while sitting behind concrete walls, powerless to protect the child he'd raised. In exclusive interviews with TMZ and Hot New Info, recorded inside the detention center using a smuggled device, Cannon described Big U's reaction like it was something burned into his memory forever. Said Big U froze, tears sliding down his face, fists clenched tight, barely able to speak. Then he whispered words that cracked the room open. "Not my boy, not like this." Cannon said both of them were shattered beyond belief. Cannon added that they were trying to stay strong, trying to find meaning through the pain, saying things like, "We'll work through this together, even from in here. God makes no mistakes. It's testing us, but we'll rise." But even he admitted those words felt hollow up against the reality, staring them down because no, quote, no prayer, no message could soften the blow of a father losing his child while trapped behind bars with no way to mourn. Imagine that moment for a second and let the weight sit on your shoulders. You're a father, locked up, fighting federal charges that could keep you behind bars for life. And in the middle of the night, you learn your 34-year-old son, your seed, your flesh. The one who was trying to live clean and raise his own daughter and has been murdered on the very streets he once moved through with authority. And you can't do nothing about it from inside that cell? You can't pull up to the scene? You can't hug your family? You can't confront nobody? You can't protect what's yours? You're trapped behind concrete while your world collapses outside. From that moment on, Big, you couldn't even grieve the way a father should. Couldn't apply pressure on the streets, couldn't demand answers, couldn't protect his other kids from whatever storm might be coming next. Locked in a cell while tragedy spread across the neighborhood like wildfire, that was the nightmare he woke up to on November 1st, 2025. He was stuck behind bars while his child lay in the morgue with 4 bullet wounds, and the whole hood, whispering, pointing fingers, and turning his pain into conversation pieces. That's a kind of hell no man should ever face. Big U didn't issue a public statement he couldn't have if he wanted to. Federal gag orders and jail protocols made direct media contact impossible while he waited for his trial. But sources close to the family told, rolling out on November 1st, that Big U spent the entire day deep in solitary reflection. He requested Bible passages from the jail chaplain and begged for a family visit that got pushed to November. Third, because detention center rules don't care about heartbreak or grief, they run on cold schedules and stricter routines. Meanwhile, the investigation into Jabari's murder kept pushing forward with slow, methodical steps, but legal precision didn't equal progress. The case had barely any leads that could blow it open, and frustration was growing by the hour. LAPD boosted the search by announcing a $50,000 reward on November 1st, hoping money might convince someone to speak up about the shooters and give the family some justice. Detectives pulled surveillance from 12 nearby businesses, including including heavy footage from the Chevron across the street that might have caught the sedan and maybe even the shooter on camera. Forensic ballistics were still being processed, with results expected by November 5th, hoping they could tie the weapon to previous cases and reveal a pattern. Detective Maria Gonzalez from LAPD's South Bureau Homicide Division took the lead. But as of November 2nd, 2025, the case had no suspects, no arrests, and no solid direction, just a city full of tension and voices ready to explode with theories and accusations. And the investigators quickly realized the real threat wasn't just the crime scene, it was the chaos building online. Social media exploded instantly. People started analyzing the situation with stunning speed and zero compassion. Rumors, assumptions, and half-truths spread faster than any official update ever could. The internet started building entire narratives from thin air, shaping theories around old conspiracies and recycling stories that had never been proven in the first place. Within 90 minutes of the first LAPD scanner alerts, hitting the internet around 11:45 p.m., Jabari's murder stopped being viewed as a tragic loss and turned into digital entertainment for thousands. People didn't see a father's son. They saw a headline they could twist. Many started treating it like payback, talking like the universe had handed out some kind of cosmic verdict based on Big U's alleged past. By midnight, X had already surged past 2,500 posts tied to the story. By 6 a.m. on November 1st, it had exploded to 15,000 as the news hopped across time zones. Hashtags like J, Henley, Big U Henley, and Baby Wee started trending across Los Angeles and the wider hip-hop space. But the darkest hashtag was Nipsey Karma, a cruel and cold phrase suggesting Jabari's death was some kind of cosmic payback, stacking up over 4,000 uses within just 2 days. TikTok quickly became the center of the most disturbing content. Videos showing raw bystander footage of paramedics trying to save Jabari's life circulated like nothing mattered. Anonymous accounts posted clips filmed from windows and sidewalks, choosing viral views over decent humanity. By noon on November 1st, those videos racked up 3.2 million views. Instagram Reels only made things worse. Nipsey Hussle fan pages with huge followings reposted the footage and added commentary that mixed genuine mourning for Nipsey with thinly disguised celebrations of Jabari's death. As if taking the life of a 34-year-old warehouse worker could somehow balance the scales for a tragedy from 6 years earlier. The disrespect came in waves, each one nastier than the last. People who never met Jabari and didn't know anything about his life felt bold enough to judge whether he deserved the bullets he caught. They weren't talking like human beings. They were talking like spectators at a show, disconnected from the reality that he had a child, a job, and a life he was trying to live right. At 12:07 a.m. on November 1st, one user posted a crime scene clip with the caption, "Retaliation for Big U's alleged Nipsey setup. Street war never ends." The post went viral instantly. The comments filled up with strangers connecting dots that didn't exist, building conspiracy webs out of imagination and street gossip. Another user wrote at 6:47 a.m. with even more venom, "LA let Big U walk after killing your legend Nipsey. Trash City." The message was cold and direct, calling Jabari's death delayed punishment for something his father was never even charged with. No mention of facts, no mention of reality, just pure hate. None of these people cared that Jabari was innocent in all of this. None cared about his 10-year-old daughter or the family destroyed in real time. This is how internet mob justice works. Names become targets and bloodlines become verdicts. An analysis of 8,000 posts from November 1st through November 2nd showed how twisted the reaction was. A staggering 62% of posts mentioned Nipsey's name directly, treating Jabari's murder as if it were connected to events from 2019 that had nothing to do with him. Only 28% of posts showed condolences or empathy. The remaining 10% were even worse: pure cruelty, conspiracies, and disrespect aimed at someone who never harmed anybody. A small number of people tried to push back against the mockery and the cold-hearted celebration, but their voices got drowned out fast by the massive wave of people who convinced themselves that cheering for a young father's murder was somehow honoring Nipsey and keeping his marathon alive. One user summed up the truth perfectly when they wrote, "Don't care about Big U, but his son didn't deserve this." But compassion like that didn't stand a chance against thousands of posts treating Jabari's death like a joke, a punchline, or some twisted form of karmic payback instead of a life lost way too soon. Some users tried to bring actual insight, explaining how LA's street politics work and why someone like Jabari might be targeted regardless of the old Nipsey theories. People who understood. South LA's gang dynamics made it clear being born into certain families puts a target on your back whether you choose the life or not. Jabari didn't pick this world, but he was trapped in it from the day he arrived, carrying a last name that came with decades of tension and danger. The analysis kept rolling, painting the picture of a man stuck between survival and legacy. Trying to live clean while his bloodline kept placing him in the middle of things he never signed up for. Social media platforms stepped in eventually, but by the time they acted, the damage was already done, and the internet had already twisted his death into a show for strangers. Twitter X suspended 15 accounts for doxing on November 1st accounts, posting his home address, workplace information, and even details about his daughter in a disgusting display of harassment that went far beyond disrespect. TikTok demonetized around 200 videos showing graphic scenes so creators couldn't make money off. Footage of a man dying on pavement, but the clips themselves still stayed up and kept spreading fast across the app. Instagram flagged 50 reels under hate speech rules, placing warning labels on content that openly celebrated murder, but the platform didn't remove most of the videos either. It was way too little, way too late. Millions had already seen the clips. Millions had already joined the mockery. Somewhere in a cold detention center, Cell Big U was learning that not only had he lost his son, but the internet was celebrating it like some twisted victory. Even some of Nipsey's own real ones, people who had every reason to be bitter toward Big U, tried their best to shut down the ugliness taking over social media. But their voices were outnumbered instantly. Black Sam, Nipsey's brother, an executor of his estate, posted using the official Mora Records Instagram. Pain multiplies pain. Honor Nip with peace, not this. It was a bold message aimed directly at those claiming they were doing something for Nipsey, reminding everyone that Nipsey spent his final years trying to take the hood away from violence, not push it deeper into it. But even powerful voices like Black Sam's got buried under thousands of people who convinced themselves that mocking a dead man and tearing down a grieving father was somehow righteous under street code. LAPD reported a 22% jump in anonymous Crime Stoppers tips between November 1st and 2nd. 150 calls flooded in, many mentioning old beefs, revenge theories, and wild stories tying Jabari's death back to Nipsey's 2019 killing. Detectives had to dig through a mountain of rumors, fake leads, and street gossip, trying to separate real information from conspiracy theories that had nothing to do with the case. The internet became both a blessing and a curse, brought potential witnesses forward. But it also poisoned the investigation with noise, theories, and fake narratives that wasted time and sent detectives chasing ghosts. The bigger picture made it clear the city was entering a dangerous moment. Tensions were rising, alliances were shifting, and the timing of Jabari's murder couldn't have been more explosive. Law was already on a jand. Now every corner felt like it could spark something even worse if the wrong narrative caught fire. As of November 6, 2025, there were still no arrests in the killing of Jabari Henley. The streets were heating up by the hour, the investigation was still active, and LAPD detectives were still reviewing surveillance, processing ballistics, and interviewing anyone who might know who pulled that trigger. The uncertainty only made things darker and more unpredictable. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click one of the boxes on your screen to check out more content just like this.